So at 42 Entertainment, we started out not really 100% knowing where we were going, but we were enamored with the idea that if you imagined a story world and could imagine a through line for the audience, a way for them to get involved, a way for them to participate, then how do you bring that to life? And how do you create a spine of an experience so that someone doesn't get lost? So when I think of the term transmedia, we've always called them immersive entertainment experiences. To me, what it really means is, new ways to tell stories. I think that there is a lot of design discipline involved in it. If you think about, starting out, typically design processes are blue sky, I'm throwing the doors wide open, everything's possible, and then at some point I bring in reality and head towards concept development, which is how can I herd all of these blue sky ideas into a cohesive concept that potentially not only would solve the needs for whatever design problem I have, but that we could start to put some budget parameters around. And that leads to some kind of concept development plan that includes budget and implementation schedule, how you would roll it out. And then ultimately that leads to detailed design development, production, execution, and then guess what? Hey, when you execute, you're just starting. This was a big learning process. Now, fortunately, I'd been in a massively multiplayer online game, and I knew that once you launch the game, you're actually starting a relationship with your players. And so you have to not only observe how they're consuming the gameplay and the content, but you also have to be, constantly engaging them on different levels that they can get involved in. So when we started doing immersive entertainment experiences at 42, we said, well, how can we take this type of game theory? It's a really different kind of level design, and apply that to the casual audience. This is going to, first of all, we wanted to make it cross your path. So how does it cross your path? And then from crossing your path, how are we giving you the proper markers so that oh, I'm crossing the line into an entertainment experience, very much like I'm going to go sit down in a movie theater, I'm going to watch a movie. Here I'm crossing a line and I'm going into an immersive interactive storytelling experience. And then once you've done that, how do you then, whether somebody wants to spend 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 weeks, or 5 months, how do you make sure that that experience holds together, but at every step of the way, it's delivering on some promise of that world and that story? Because I think that's one of the unique attributes about transmedia that differentiates it from gaming and passive entertainment like watching a film or watching a television series, is immersive entertainment or transmedia. When we first started out, the idea behind the storytelling was, rather than tell a story from beginning to middle to end, why don't we treat the story as if it happened? And scattered among all these different platforms are evidence of that story and what potentially happened in that story. And then you give the audience a rabbit hole into that. And then they work together to put those pieces together. And along the way, they're speculating and they're talking with each other. And they're building the linear story of what happened. It is upfront design. You've got to think it through. I think we've seen a lot of projects start, and they start off brilliantly. There's a stunt, or there's a rabbit hole, or there's something, and you think, wow, I've never seen that before. That's amazing. I want to see where that goes. And it just goes one place, and then it stops. If you're really going to tell a transmedia story, or if you're really going to do an immersive entertainment experience, you got to know where you're going. It doesn't mean every step of the way is defined for you, but you have to have a spine where you say, we're starting here, we're moving here, we're moving here. Because yes, it's true that people bring it to life, but they shouldn't have to also bear the burden of creating the whole construct. That's your job. You're the creator. You need to create the construct. You need to know what the spine of the experience is. You need to know where it's going. That doesn't mean that you don't listen to your audience. I think we've always followed somewhat of an 80-20 rule, where you know where you're going, you know where you want people to get to, you want them to have those moments, you've designed them to be personal and global at the same time, but you're also listening. If there's something that they latch on to a little bit harder, a little bit stronger than you thought, go with it. So we've talked a lot about the creative aspects of creating an experience, telling a story, creating an interactive that has a payoff. But what's the role of technology? From the very beginning, we said, let's don't be tied to any one technology. Let's think of technology as an enabler. Part of this is that Moore's Law. Technology was evolving so fast. We didn't want to create something using a platform or a technology that instantly became obsolete. So we wanted to have a flexible enough art form that as technology evolved, we could evolve with it. I think one of the things that we learned halfway through is that if people are really going to start investing their time in interactive experiences, then they want some level of validation for that, including some measure of, well, how far along am I? How much is there to go? So some sense of, well, what is the whole experience, and how can I track where I am in the experience? So along with a lot of learning from gamings, we've implemented things that allow you achievements, social recognition, points, the ability to understand how far you are, how far you have to go. And I think to some degrees that works more authentically in the story than others, but that has been something that people have craved as part of interactive. So having a back end that connects progress. So whether I'm out in the real world or on my mobile phone or doing something, in a game, there's an opportunity for me to track if I've completed it, that I can, my status in that world can be affected by the decisions I'm making and the progress that I'm making. Going back to the role of technology, there have been many things that we've done in the real world to try to grab the attention or punctuate the story in a way that really elevates the participation, elevates the awareness, and also validates the people who are being involved in it. I think part of the challenge is, how do you make something that either works for a group of people, but also works for the complete audience that's involved in a story? And that's where we have, again, going back to design, it's like you can create a personal moment that really connects, but you also want to have that global significance for how collaboratively we're working together to accomplish this story.